So everybody here, good morning, everybody. Okay, we do have quorum. All right, excellent. So I call this meeting of the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization Administration and Finance Committee to order, May 29th, 2025. Silva, will you please read the notice of discrimination, meeting guidelines, and accessibility statement?
Yes. You are invited to participate in our transportation planning process, regardless of your race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status, or background. Please read the full notice of your rights and protections at www.boston.org/MPO_NON_DISCRIMination. Next slide, please. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with exceptions with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA standards and revised Section 508 standards. If you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in this meeting, or if you have any technical difficulties, please contact Olivia Sakosha, MPO staff, at osaccocia@ctps.org or 857-702-3705 or via the chat box. Next slide, please. All participants will join the meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. After roll call, board members may mute or unmute themselves. Always remain muted unless actively speaking. To participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function. You may find this by clicking either on the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with a raise hand button at the bottom, or the reactions button in the toolbar. The chair will then call on participants. If you're on the phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand.
Thank you, Silva. Introductions. So I'm going to do a digital roll call of the members present to establish a quorum, even though I know we have a quorum. So good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Kane. I have the great honor to be the executive director of the MBTA Advisory Board and to chair this committee on behalf of the full MPO board. And let's see, Chris Clem from MassDOT. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brian. This is Chris Clem from MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning.
Thanks, Chris. Eric.
Good morning. Eric Barassa with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Thank you, Eric. Ronan.
Good morning. Ronan from Boston MPO.
Oh, sorry, Ronan. Thank you. Len, how are you, Leonard?
Oh, Leonard Diggins, I have the great honor to be in a meeting in which the great Brian Kane is the chair.
The poet laureate of transportation in Massachusetts. Thank you, Leonard.
Sure.
There's also many MPO staff joining us. Ronan, sorry to call you out like that. You're all very welcome. Hello. And we're going to skip over staff introductions and move on to agenda item 2, which is public comment. Let me also just say before we get there that folks can use the raise hand function if they'd like to be called upon. Otherwise, please remain muted so that we can have an orderly meeting. And also just want to note that due to a scheduling snafu with something that got out of my control, I'm going to have to depart at 10. I've made arrangements with Eric Barassa to take over leading the meeting, and Hannah Swidltowski from my office will join on behalf of the advisory board. But hopefully we can get through a lot of stuff before then. So, public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment at this time? If so, please use the raise hand function, and I would be delighted to call upon you. Seeing no hands raised, I close the public comment period and we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is an action item, which is the approval of the March 27, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 27, 2025?
Eric Barassa, I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Eric. Is there a second? Leonard, I'm looking at you. You have to unmute, Len.
I can read his lips. He said I second that.
Yeah, I was saying, I was trying to raise my hand to be orderly. Thank you. Yes, I second.
Thank you very much. Olivia, do you mind calling the roll?
Yes. Brian Kane,
Yes.
Dennis Giambetti, don't see him on here. Eric Barassa,
Eric Barassa, yes.
Len Diggins,
Diggins, yes.
Jim Fitzgerald, I don't see on here as well. And Chris Klein.
Chris Clem, yes.
That motion carries and those minutes are approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to agenda item number 4. State fiscal year 25 operating budget update, quarter 3. Haral Gandhi and Silva will present this item. Take it away, please.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to, today we'll be walking through 3 key areas of our financial outlook. Next slide, please. First, Silva, our project accountant, will review the current revenue, expenses, and overhead rate through the 3rd quarter of state fiscal year 2025, which runs from July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025. Next, she will share our updated SFY 25 year-end projections. And finally, I will present the proposed operating budget for SFY 26 for your consideration. Next slide. Silva, if you can take it over.
Yes, thank you, Haral. Good morning, everyone. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'll be providing an update on the state fiscal year 2025 operating budget through quarter 3, which covers the months of January, February, and March. Now that we're 3 quarters through the state fiscal year, we're happy to report that we continue to be in a strong financial position. This table here outlines our financial position by quarter. Looking at quarter 3, our revenue and expenses were pretty well balanced. We charged just under $2 million in revenue and had about $1.98 million in expenses, leaving us with a relatively small small surplus of $17,000. A few key things contributed to this financial outcome. First, we successfully filled 4 full-time permanent positions, 2 managers, and 2 planners. With onboarding and training, we saw some more time being charged to overhead, which is expected, of course, with new staff. Second, some additional staff time was dedicated to our website redesign initiative. Just an update on that, as of today, we have officially brought on a consultant to help redesign both the internal and external Boston Region MPO websites. And finally, this year, we saw a slight increase in expenses due to new staff engagement events, both social and professional. These events are a part of our strategic planning efforts, and this is actually our pilot year. Looking forward, we have dedicated a line item specific to staff engagement in the SFY 26 operating budget. Overall, through the end of quarter 3, we're showing a total surplus of $25,000, and our overhead rate is at 119.60%. which is quite close to our target of 120.30 for the year. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now let's take a look at our revenue. This graph compares our projected revenue in blue to our actual revenue in orange. Just a quick note, our projections are based on a straight line model, assuming consistent revenue across the entire state fiscal year. Our revenue performance is broken down by funding source. Our first category shown here, which is also our largest funding source, is a combination of MPO and MassDOT directed 5303 funds. We had projected to charge $4.8 million and charged about $4.2 million. According to the straight line projections, we're at 87% of our target through quarter 3, and we do expect to build up on this spending in the next quarters. For SPR, we're at about 50% of our projections, which is expected as these funds are typically used as they're allocated throughout the year. In the MassDOT Other category, which includes the on-call multimodal project, we've reached about 60% of our target. You may notice that we bumped up the projection in this category because we recently successfully secured additional funding for requested work outside of the original scope. We are wrapping up this project and should expect to complete it in the next few quarters. The majority of this category will be completed in this state fiscal year. We met our projections in the MBTA category, and in the other category, we actually exceeded our projections. I do want to highlight that this category supports the Vision Zero Action Plan, as well as 2 new grants that we were recently awarded, including the Mobility, Access, and Transportation Insecurity Grant, also known as MATI, and the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, also known as MVP. Our agency has already began working on both of these grants as of Q3. Altogether, we had projected $6.8 million in revenue through Q3, and we've charged about $5.9 million. That puts us at 88% of our target. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now let's look at our expenses. We break these out into 3 main categories: admin, direct labor, and direct costs. For our admin category, we projected $3 million and have spent about $2.7 million. That's 90% of our target. In the direct labor category, we were also at 91% of our target. We projected $2.5 million and have charged $2.2 million so far. This actually shows consistent time spent across all projects and contracts at the agency. For direct costs, we projected $1.1 million and have spent $970,000, or 80% of our target. This category saw an uptick mainly due to consultant work related to the Vision Zero Action Plan. We've also began engaging with sub-consultants related to our most recently awarded MATI and MVP grants. Overall, our expenses are aligning well in consideration with our revenue through Q3. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next, let's review our SFY25 year-end projections. While we had an approved revenue budget of $8.8 million for SFY25, we project to close the year at approximately $7.6 million. This variance in revenue is primarily attributed to the start date of our contracts. We had a number of grants that we anticipated to start in the beginning of the state fiscal year. However, some of these revenue sources didn't come in until later in the year. So these delays in the contract start dates resulted in lower spending for the entire state fiscal year. On the expenses side, we budgeted $8.8 million, but now project to close the year at around $7.5 million. There are a few factors contributing to this variance, including direct labor, our staff count, and agency expenses in total. Overall, we expect the projected overhead rate for SFY25 to be 120.68, which is slightly above our approved rate, but within a manageable range given the revenue variances. Haral will actually provide more details on these numbers and line items in her presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you all so much for your time and your attention, and we're happy to take any questions you may have related to the Q3 budget.
Questions for Silva or Haral? Silva or Olivia, I guess you're controlling the slides. Can you go back maybe 3? Yeah. Sorry, no, go ahead. Go forward 1. Sorry, Eric, I see. Just give me 1 second here. Just real quick for folks who are, well, for me and for everybody else, what's the difference between administrative expenses, direct labor, and direct cost, please?
I can take that. So administrative costs are those that are agency-wide expenses that support the project work. So those include rent, and I'll go in, I do have a little section in my presentation to go over it, but basically they support all the work of the agency. Direct labor are salaries that are charged directly, staff time that's directly charged to contracts, and they bring in, then we add the overhead and they bring in the overhead money. And then direct costs are pass-through funds that are project-specific direct expenses, like engaging with a consultant to, or engaging with a consultant to help us with the Maddie grant or the Safe Streets for All grant. Another example is purchasing of data collection equipment for a specific bike ped program. So those are direct costs that are pass-through funds. And so those are the three different categories.
Thanks, Pharrell. Eric, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I just have a comment that this, this looks really great. I mean, you guys are right on, right on projection. And the fourth quarter is April, May, and June, right?
Correct.
This is a state fiscal year, not a federal.
Yes.
Yeah, then I mean, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely, agreed. Okay, any other questions on the update? Looks like we're on the right path, at least according to my humble opinion. And since Eric agrees with me, it must be true. Excellent, thank you. We'll move on to action item 5. Actually, you know what? Real quick, let me take chair's prerogative here, and then I'm just going to go to members' items real quick, because just in case I have to drop off, I just want to let my fellow committee members know that I participated last week in Tegan's annual review as part of our operations plan. I was there with Mark Drayson and David Moeller, of course, and it was very exciting and fun, and also kind of sad because this might be, it is actually Mark's last one, but we had a very good discussion, and as everyone I think agrees, Tegan's doing a wonderful job. So it was not contentious, as those things can be. So I just wanted to report out to my fellow committee members that that took place, and this is another great example of the operations plan continuing to work. And we have more to do, more changes to make, and to sort of strengthen changes that we've made, but this at least is working. So thank you for that. And now let's go back to item 5, which is state fiscal year 26 proposed operating budget. Haral, you will present this item. If I have to drop off, Eric will take over the leadership, and I'll make sure that Hannah gets here to make sure we continue a quorum. Thank you. And Haral, it's all yours.
Thanks, Brian. Before I dive into the details of the proposed SFY 26 operating budget, Tegan will provide just a brief overview to help frame the discussion. Tegan?
Yeah, sorry to take it right back, but I did want to just say a few things given that we're presenting the next year's entire budget. So the state fiscal year 2026 budget, which Haral will present momentarily, has been developed in the context of the increasing uncertainty we are probably all facing in this coming year in terms of the availability of federal funding. So in developing the budget, we did do some scenario planning internally. We looked at and assessed the potential impacts of the receipt or loss of certain federal funding sources, primarily the discretionary grants, so they're now called competitive grant awards. So we moved forward in designing this budget with the conservative assumptions that we would not receive any additional Safe Streets and Roads for All funding that was awarded to the MPO, and that we would not receive those funds starting after June 30th. Now, it's not certain that there is no chance that we will receive those funds, but we did not want to assume that in our planning, so that we could make sure that we were producing, a fiscally reasonable budget. So that also lines up with the announcement that was made last week. No, 2 weeks ago at the last board meeting, where MAPC, our fiduciary agent, announced that they would not be signing contracts on the behalf of the MPO if they contain certain new federal language, which is part of litigation that is underway. So with that, we think, I believe we've developed a budget that is very reasonable within the context of that uncertainty, and it maintains our existing staff as well as similar levels of investment in our agency, although with a slightly higher overhead rate. So you'll see that in a moment. But it also includes our ability to continue to hire staff to fill the open positions we have currently, as well as offer a modest overall salary adjustment for staff for the beginning of the state fiscal year. So this is important not only for supporting our staff, but also for the agency for retaining the workforce that enables us to bring in the revenue that is available to the MPO. We need our staff to help us bring in the revenue. And of course, we want to make sure we're supporting our staff through these times as well. So the investments embedded in the budget on the administrative side as well also continue to build on my goals, which I established in the current state fiscal year and are being updated, as Brian mentioned, through my review going into the next state fiscal year. And that includes things like supporting ongoing professional development, engaging in forums to elevate the work of the MPO, continuing to invest in our internal working groups, like our project management working group, and continuing to support IT, upgrades to support modernizing our office, and many, many other items, again, which Raul will go into some more detail on. So with that, I feel like we're on track with presenting a realistic budget that is working towards our goals, and I will hand it back over to Haral to provide us with the details.
Thanks, Tegan. All right, so let me just set myself up so I can take over slide control. Okay, so today I'll be highlighting the three components of the operating budget, which are the projected revenue, expenses, and the overhead rate. As a reminder, this budget covers a period from July 1st, 2025 to June 30, 2026. Throughout this presentation, I'll refer to the two documents available on the meeting calendar and linked in the chat, the projected revenue table, as well as the operating budget memo and table. Thank you, Silva. Let's begin with an overview of our revenue projections for our state fiscal year 2026. This table is organized into two main sections. The left side provides contract level details such as total contract amounts, start and end dates, and allocations across salaries, overhead, and direct costs. The last three columns on the right side focus on the portion of each contract expected to be spent during SFY 2026, and that's the data we'll focus on for this discussion. The revenue is grouped into four main categories: MPO 3C funding, MassDOT funded work, MBTA funded work, and other discretionary projects and grants. One second. Sorry about that. We estimate the total revenue to be $8,240,000, representing a 7% decrease from the $8.5 million projected for state fiscal year 2025. This chart emphasizes that the CTPS operating budget is heavily supported by the 3C funds, which total just over $6.6 million, or 80% of the total budget. Because the 3C funding follows the federal fiscal year, October to September, the state fiscal year amounts shown span two federal fiscal year contracts. That means the state fiscal year 2026 projections include funds from both federal fiscal year 2025 and federal fiscal year 2026. Also included in the 3C contracts are the MassDOT Directed 5303 funds, which account for about $260,000 in state fiscal year 2026. As with previous years, the vast majority of these funds, more than 90%, support salary and overhead costs, with a smaller portion directed towards project-specific direct costs that I will talk about in the next section. Additional revenue comes from MassDOT and MBTA funded projects, as well as discretionary grants such as the MVP and the MATI grants that Silva mentioned earlier. Next, let's turn to the anticipated operating expenses. These are detailed in the operating budget memo and the accompanying table. The total projected expenses for SFY 2026, sorry, one sec. The total projected expenses for SFY 2026 also equal $8.2 million. And as Silva mentioned earlier, are categorized into direct labor, direct costs, and admin expenses. Sorry, one second. Based on the current revenue projections and associated work programs, we're budgeting for approximately 60 full-time. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. One second, something's off here. Based on the revenue projections and associated work programs, we're budgeting for approximately 60 full-time professional staff. This includes funding for part-time and per diem employees, as well as a merit and promotion pool for salary increases. While this is a slight decrease from last year's budgeted amount, it represents an 8% increase over projected actual spending for SFY 2025, primarily due to lower than expected staffing levels throughout the year. We had budgeted for 61 full-time staff members in SFY 25, but we peaked at 56, which is where we currently stand now. We currently have 3 active recruitments and 1 more planned for early SFY 2026, bringing us to the targeted 60 positions. Next, let's move to the direct costs. Those are shown in lines 2 through 8 of the table. These are project-specific expenses, as I mentioned earlier, directly funded by contracts and do not impact the overhead rate. In most cases, they require prior approval from the contracting agency before the expense is incurred. In SFY 26, we are budgeting $66,500 for IT equipment, which includes $20,000 to replace a network switch and $46,500 to replace a power distribution unit in the server room. The consultant line includes $400,000 for the MVP grant work, $5,000 per MADI grant, and the remaining funds are through the deobligated MPO funds to support the construction of a routable mobility network, the development of a TDM27 model, and the completion of projects funded with the federal fiscal year 25 funds, such as the website redesign project, work related to the FTA STOPS model, and the DEIA assessment. Line 8 covers unique project-related expenses, such as the subscription renewal for data recording software to support bicycle pedestrian program, purchasing air quality monitoring technology, providing incentives for engagement activities, printing public outreach materials, and catering for the MPO board meetings. We're also allocating $5,000 for other unforeseen expenses that may arise during the year. Next, I will talk about the administrative expenses shown in lines 9 through 56, which make up about 50% of our total costs, or $4 million. These support a range of key operational tasks, including group collaboration, resource planning, budget maintenance, strategic planning activities, and HR-related functions such as evaluations, training, and onboarding new employees. This also covers employee benefits, IT equipment and software, office rent and maintenance, recruitment, and other related expenses. While many of our anticipated administrative expenses are consistent with previous years, there are a few notable changes in SFY 26 budget that I'd like to highlight. For instance, under line 19, short-term disability insurance is increasing by about $8,000 or 80% due to our transition to a new insurance vendor and a revised payment structure. While the premiums are higher, we anticipate that these costs will be offset by a reduction in our benefit payouts. Lines 37 and 38 represent expenses related to the office space. In the past couple of years, as you know, we've included budget assumptions for a potential office move or renovation. However, due to ongoing uncertainty around that effort, we've removed those assumptions from the SFY 26 budget. That said, we are still actively planning to issue a request for proposal, an RFP, for a new office lease within the next month. However, given the typical timelines involved in procurement, negotiations, and potential build-out process, we do not anticipate incurring any major expenses within SFY 2026. We will revisit the budget implications once there's a greater clarity on the timing and scope of the office transition. Under the recruitment line, we had budgeted for the possibility of using external hiring firms to support recruitment for highly specialized technical roles. While we did explore this option, we did not receive viable candidates and therefore did not spend the allocated funds in SFY 25. For 2026, we do not anticipate engaging outside firms and have reduced the recruitment budget accordingly. And line 43 represents expenses related to engaging external legal services. This expense exceeded the SFY 25 budget due to a higher than expected volume of legal support for staff immigration needs, including work authorizations and visas. We're maintaining the same funding level for SFY 2026 to ensure we are prepared to support support future staff needs and requests. In line 44, line 44 represents engagement with a consultant to update our compensation plan. In SFY 25, we started a more robust update since it was first completed. And then for SFY 26, we're budgeting for a smaller scale annual refresh, which helps us keep the plan current and competitive without needing a full reassessment each year. As a result, this line item is lower than SFY 2025. This slide outlines how we calculate the overhead rate. It's the ratio of administrative expenses to direct labor. And for SFY 2026, the projected overhead rate is 122.59%, which is up from the 120.3% in SFY 25. And with that, I can turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, for any discussion, questions, and a vote to recommend approval at the June 26th MPO meeting. Eric?
Oh, I'm the chair. I'm sorry. Brian has left us. And I have a question, but I'm gonna hold my question. And I'm gonna call on Len.
It's fine if you want to go first, Eric. You may ask a question I'm going to ask.
Okay. I have two questions. One, do you guys pay rent? I'm just curious to MassDOT or DCAM?
It's
Temp
to
Park Road.
MassDOT.
It's through MassDOT. Okay. And you said that you are pursuing a new lease for the same office space, right?
Well, we are evaluating whether we stay and renovate the current office space or we move to a new office space. We're exploring different options.
Okay, you're exploring that. And that is budgeted in FY 25 for that, right?
We had budgeted.
26.
Yeah, these conversations have been going on for a while, so we had budgeted. We had put a placeholder for about $100,000 in SFY 25. We weren't able to actually spend that out because of delays in getting the RFP out. And so we are with all of our funding sources and the uncertainty around that and just uncertainty around how many responses we'll get in the RFP. We are not putting it in the budget for SFY 26, but we can reevaluate it once we have more information.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, the overhead rate's a little higher, not that much. What do you think that's attributed to?
That is attributed to the lower than I mean, in the past, we've had the discretionary grants come through for example, the Safe Streets for All, so our revenue is a little bit less, but our expenses are remaining steady.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a couple of questions. First one's regarding the disability. So well, two sets of questions to me. So what's the cost for the increase in premium on the disability insurance?
We have a new vendor that
Yeah.
we are engaging with. It's a new insurance company, and the premiums are higher.
Right. So what bothers me about it is that you said it's going to be offset a bit by the decrease in payouts. I mean, and so I mean, how much decrease in payout? The reason I bring this up is like, I mean, disability is like, it's kind of like when someone needs it, they really need it, and so I'm a little concerned, that.
Yeah, no. Sorry,
Mm.
just to clarify, it's
Sure.
not, it won't affect the staff.
Okay.
It will be paid out by the insurance company.
Okay.
So CTPS or MAPC will pay a smaller amount, will pay, I think it's 40%, while the insurance company will cover the 60%. The staff will still will get the same, if not more of a benefit, because
Okay.
we've actually increased our paid FMLA time because of this lower cost to the agency. So actually the staff will be, if they need it, will be getting a better benefit out of this.
Great. I feel so much better, and so, and regarding the payment for engagement, I think I have a good sense of what that's about, but if you could give more detail on that, that's fine. If you can't, that's fine too. So.
Are you, sorry, can you
I'm sorry. Yeah,
clarify the public engagement? Is that the
I think there's like the 45K line. I mean, and part of that was like payment for engagement. I mean, was one of the elements in that line.
Yes.
And so I mean, if you could, I mean, I think I know what that involves, but if you can give more detail, I'd appreciate it. If you can't, that's fine.
Yeah, that includes a partial amount, a part of that 45,000 goes towards working with community-based organizations and providing incentives for feedback and input, stakeholder input into our work. Another part of it is we have steering committees. So some examples would be like the bike ped steering committees. So we're doing a similar exercise with that, with the community-based organizations. So it's more, it's related to like incentives for these organizations.
Okay. So when you say stakeholder engagement, because I was thinking that I was under the impression that we were going to be compensating the members of the new the CAC. So is that part of that too, or is that
It
some?
is.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it
And
is.
so all right. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, and we need to take a vote on this, right? To recommend it to the full MPO. Are there any other questions about this? I'm not seeing any. So let's have can I get a motion to approve the FY26 proposed operating budget to send it to the full MPO? Leonard?
I'll make that motion to approve the budget and send it to the full committee for approval.
Okay, can I have a second? Chris?
I'll second that motion.
Great. So we have a motion and a second, and yeah, let's call the roll. Len?
Yes.
Great. Chris?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Eric Barassa, I'm a yes. And I think that's all the voting members. Is that correct? I think that's everyone who's here today. So that motion passed. Thank you. Morale, that's great.
Thank
Second.
you.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to close out by just saying thanks for the good questions. Always appreciate, always happy to share information and be as transparent as possible with these questions. And also just wanted to thank Burrell and her team for all of their very hard work pulling together this information every year. Certainly tons of moving pieces to pull together. So I just wanted to say thank you to them and looking forward to moving forward and bringing this to the board. Thank you all.
Yeah, so our next agenda item is members items. Any members items? Okay, so when is our next meeting?
It will be announced, but most likely sometime in after the closing of the state fiscal year 25, so August or September.
Okay,
And at that point, we'll talk about that closeout, as well as, and we'll be able to give an update on sort of the goals that all set for the agency in the coming year as well, and kind of the closeout of the progress towards the goals for the state fiscal year 25.
okay, that sounds good. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Great.
So seconded.
Moved and seconded without objection. We are adjourned. Great job, everyone. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Eric.
everyone.
Bye.